Welcome to UNCAGED. Today we're speaking with Chris Rieder. Chris, it's great to have you on the show.
Super happy to be here, Bant. Thank you very much.
So Chris has an amazing career. He is a chief information officer, most recently the chief information officer at Colonial Management Group, but certainly has been a chief information officer at Aurora Diagnostics and a million other
Yes.
places. And, we're going to be talking about the world of the CIO today and digital health and really kind of where things are evolving in that space, especially in areas of like thinking about interoperability with data systems, etc. Chris, it's great to have you on this show. Before we get into
Yeah.
the weeds of this whole thing, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Well, Bant, thank you very much. Super excited to be here. I have been in IT long enough to remember when we had punch cards and big, huge Fortran machines. But it has always been healthcare related IT. Why? Because I had always wanted to be in healthcare. My family's in healthcare. My family is still in healthcare. And so for me, it was about how do I make that bridge between technology, which was very much a strategic part of solution providing, and healthcare. And so it has always been exciting to me to be on the edges and part of healthcare, but yet bringing technology to those individuals.
Great. And obviously, when we talk about things like building interoperable
Mhm.
healthcare, obvious things kind of come to the fore. Certainly, how data works together, et cetera. But tell me a little bit about kind of some of your experience in that space.
So interoperability is incredibly important because you have to be able to share data with the different disparate systems that you're either rolling out or already exist. So we have to understand, how is our data normalized? How does it look in the relational tables? And how do we make sure that we can actually pull information out? Now, why is that so important in healthcare? Because decisions are made so very quickly and with not always all the precise information you would like. That's where the data comes in. That's where being able to pull it all together, being able to see all those disparate sets of data helps the healthcare provider do a better and consistent job with providing the right outcome for the patients or for the service that you're providing. That's part of why I like IT so much.
Yeah, and healthcare IT is
Mhm.
filled with a lot of lovely challenges and lots of I'd say oversight in terms of
Yes.
issues like privacy and confidentiality. So it's one of those areas where you really can't get it wrong because if you do, there's a whole world of problems that come your way. But when you're out there and you're talking to folks right now, Chris, what are some of the bigger issues that you're seeing in that kind of healthcare IT space that people are really wrestling with?
The first part becomes, as you said, the confidentiality. How are we HIPAA compliant? How are we SOC 2 compliant? All of that is incredibly important from a patient perspective, and then therefore it becomes important from a systems perspective. So that's that interoperability we talked about, but also the governance that we talk about. Then we talk about making sure that hospitals have gotten through their JCO certification or any others that are out there in order to make sure you are indeed compliant. Or in my pharmaceutical days, you're able to get through the FDA audits, the FDA reviews before your product can go to market or to the public. So all of those governances, all of that data needs to be part of a chief data officer, which is typically a hybrid role between a CIO and a CDO in some
Yeah.
cases, where you're looking at how to make it work.
Yeah, I remember when the role of the CDO suddenly kind of appeared
Yeah.
in companies, and a lot of the regulation really supported that
Hmm.
and that need. And certainly, I would say that data is still the lifeblood of almost everything. In
Yes.
particular, it's something that comes up time and time again when we
Hmm.
hear people talk about AI and machine learning
Hmm.
as well. Tell me a little bit about how AI is developing in your space.
So the luxury I have is when I was in graduate school, my thesis was actually all about AI. They called it artificial intelligence at the time. Now it's augmented intelligence. There's lots of different, permutations of it. But what it's really doing is it's giving the caregiver more access to information in a much faster manner than they may have had to go back in the days when they looked up the PDR and they would go out there and see, well, what are the concomitant meds that I have to worry about that this patient is taking? Here's something that AI is actually doing a great job of. Now, is it in entirety ready? No. Are we going to replace, clinicians and healthcare givers? No. The goal becomes, how do we augment what they do? How do we use the computer to make it a better decision and better outcome based upon large sets of data? And that's part of the exciting part. And I think exciting part of AI. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that are still trying to figure out how to leverage it and what to do. And to our conversations, Ben, some of them have started and then sort of stopped. Some of them
Yeah.
continue. They're all still trying to figure out, how do I leverage this incredibly powerful algorithm so that it's agenic and at
Mhm.
some point ultimately makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean the data piece is always the critical element, but
Hmm.
also quite often the challenge. And
Yes.
what I've seen is the problem with data isn't the technology; it's the
No.
people.
Right.
It's the people, and
Right.
so making sure that the information is actually up to date, that it's actually accurate. And I can't tell you how many wonderful systems I've seen over the
Mhm.
last 6, 7 months that have really blown me away. But then when they run it on real data, it comes
Yep.
up with very strange solutions, and you're like, "Well, wait a minute.
Right.
It's So how do we deal with it? How do we work to create kind of like those guardrails that make sure that that data flow is the right fuel for the system?"
Well, I think you have to know what the outcome is going to be before you start training it on the sets of data that exist. So
Mm.
if I know that there's a specific set of data that's going to produce a specific outcome, I need to make sure that that data is representative of that outcome and that it is learning it correctly. So I
Mhm.
should know what N looks like. I use that phrase quite a bit. I've had a boss in my past that really liked that phrase. I need to know what N is going to look like so I can make
Yeah.
sure I'm progressing that way, and that I make sure that I am making sure that the system is learning the way I expect it to, and that AI is being trained, because it's all about training on big sets of data. To your point, these data centers are fantastic, but how much data can they really hold in order to be able to train an agentic AI or an algorithm in order to be able to give us what we need? So the key
Yeah.
is going to be understanding what the result needs to be in order
Yeah.
to ensure the algorithm is getting us to the right place.
Well, I mean, no doubt what an interesting space to be working in right now,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
sure. And I mean, I can see that in and of itself would really kind of be exciting to me. But when
Mhm.
you think about this broader space that you're working in, Chris, tell me a little bit about what keeps the passion flowing for this area.
So it continually changes. There's continual challenges. I mean, we haven't talked too much about cyber liability and cyber, attacks, and the fact that they're focusing on healthcare, and there's lots of different organizations that you can be part of, like InfraGard, as an example, through the FBI, which I'm a part of. And it's just one of these where we need to do a great job of making sure we are walling off what we're looking at in order to have it as clean as possible. Because whether it's garbage in, garbage out that we've all heard, or whether it's just bad data, the cleanliness of the data itself is incredibly important. So what excites me is that we haven't cracked it yet. We're still working on the algorithms. We're still
Yeah.
at a place where they're providing value, and that's going to continue to grow. And to
Yeah.
me, that is incredibly exciting.
Well, I
So,
mean, when we think about the change in your lifetime from the Fortran days to where
yeah,
we are
yeah.
to now, it's quite an incredible story, and certainly very, very exciting to think about what the next 10 years will hold
Hmm.
and how we develop technology and how it's rolled out in the healthcare space. But let's go near future here and talk a little
Hmm.
bit about kind of what you see as kind of key things that we might see over the next kind of year.
So some of the things I think that are we're going to see quickly are the teledoc side on healthcare, for example. Am I really talking to a person, or am I talking to an AI generated type solution to get me to the right person or to get me down the right path? I think we're going to see some of those initial diagnoses be part of how technology is helping get us to a pathway of care quicker. Plan
Mm,
of care. We call it POC. When you walk into an ED, for example. I think the other part's going to be how do we leverage it on the back end? I mean, RCM, revenue cycle management, is huge in healthcare, and ICD-10 codes and DSM-5, and I'm dating myself obviously, but all of these are incredibly important for being successful in healthcare, and we have to make sure that it's identifying it correctly. So there's that side of the business as well. And then it becomes a matter of making sure the data talks to each other, whether it's
right.
real-time laboratory outcomes, whether it's real-time radiology, whether it's actually being able to take a look at the entire patient in a single window or in a single set of information to make sure that we're going down the right path. I think
Yeah.
that's very much short term.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I was actually thinking a lot about the research space.
Mm,
I've been exposed recently to some of these emergent treatments that we see in, the GLP space and
yes.
the peptide space. And, I'm maybe because I come from a family of, I'm a third generation academic, so probably
Okay.
tells you that
Congratulations.
we're big researchers. We're big
Yes.
researchers in the Breen clan, and so when you dig into the research, it's really spotty,
Hmm.
all over this place in that kind of area, the peptide area, and so it just seemed to me that maybe we can use this technology better to almost like
It's
passively research somehow. I don't
It's
know.
fascinating you bring that up because when I was in the pharmaceutical business, we were really heavily researching proteins and peptides. That
Right.
was our direction. Now, the pharmaceutical space I was in was cardiovascular and diabetes, inhaled insulin, for example. And so we were doing a huge amount of research, but it was all, to your point, academic, meaning reading the other papers, reading the other people's research to see before the clinical trial was actually written, before we
Yeah.
would sit with the FDA and the reviewers and decide this is the path we want to go down, what have we already seen? What already exists that's out there that is in some sort of an artifact that I can look at in order to be able to leverage moving forward? And so that's a really great point, Ben, because I do think that the proteins and peptides side of healthcare and side of how we utilize those within providing medicine is going to be a nice area for AI to really be able to leverage.
I think so. I think so. Anyways, just kind of a weird random thought, but
It's all good.
well, listen, Chris, make it happen, please. We need
Yeah,
it.
okay. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'll put you,
Um,
you're the first author. I'll put you as the first author.
Great, great, excellent. Well, it's been amazing talking with you, Chris. If someone wanted to reach out and learn more about what you're working on, what you're up to,
Mhm.
where's the best place to find you?
So I have a LinkedIn page. Christopher Rieder is my, that's the actual LinkedIn name. And I have contact me down there. I use Calendly like most people do out there in the world today. So those are the best two ways. Obviously, there's email addresses, but let's get at me through LinkedIn because I am starting to actually do more of these podcasts. I am starting to speak in different conferences. So there's one coming up in the fall where they want me to talk about AI in healthcare. So a lot of different exciting things are happening, but that's the best way.
Excellent. Well, Chris, it's amazing to have you on this show. It's been
Thank you.
been great talking with you. We've been speaking with Chris Rieder. He is a Chief Information Officer. He is a multiple time CIO, someone
Yes.
who's actually worked across this industry and worked
Mm-hmm.
deeply in the digital health field as it
Mm-hmm.
has shifted and changed and emerged and highlighted some of the key issues. And clearly, the key issue today is going to be around AI and how that's
Mm-hmm.
done in a way that's meaningful and scaled and keeps all of those issues that we know are critical, which means things like making sure that patients continue to have improved outcomes, make sure
Mm-hmm.
that your data is protected, make sure that security isn't an issue. And so
Mm-hmm.
lots of things to think through here, Chris. Great to have you on the
All right.
show. We look forward to
Thank you
having
very
you
much.
back.
All right. Thanks, Ben.